Hey guys, Fernando here. Have you ever had this feeling of emptiness? You can't quite make out what it is, but you can definitely sense that it is there. Want some vodka, man?
Oh, I want some.
You see, I have felt those feelings of emptiness, not only in the worst moments of my life, but surprisingly in the good moments, in the moments where I thought everything was working out for me. In fact, it is in these moments in which I felt a deep need to be understood, to be loved unconditionally, to be communicated with, to be accepted. According to Alice Miller, those needs and the feelings associated to those needs are fundamental to the well-being of every human being in the world. And if in childhood those needs are not met, or they are met with conditions, like for example punishment, or for example beatings, I can for example think about a moment in time when I was a little boy and I used to get punished or beat, and I felt really angry for something I felt was not my fault. Now, of course, thinking back, I know that was unconscious behavior, trying to get the attention from my parent. Those feelings were never really expressed. What I actually learned was to suppress those feelings of anger and of hate, regardless of whatever punishment I received. And irregardless of whether those feelings were justified or not. Consequently, this led to me creating a distance from my true self, a self that is encompassed by all of the emotions and feelings, or the full range of emotions and of feelings that are inherent to every human being. So, currently, there is a lot of research being conducted in the fields of psychology and of neurosciences in trying to understand the way suppressed childhood emotions manifest themselves later in life through, for example, addiction, disease, and violence. So, if I would have to consider my own experiences, I remember being someone that was in constant need of approval of others. I had a deep need of communication, deep, true communication with people, understanding my emotions, etc. And I also had a deep need to be understood. And I just didn't know the source of this need. And because I didn't know the source of this need, I acted quite unconsciously. In fact, I started to act for the sake of adhering to ideologies of others. Like, for example, I started to buy the newest clothes, the newest shoes, you know, the Nikes and shit, and trying to look good and stuff. Or I used to be like very masculine. I didn't cry. You know, I never allowed myself to cry in front of others, and at least not as the facade I was portraying to others. And I was also quite homophobic. And I understand where that came from, because in my own childhood, in some of the households that I live, being considered as a homo, because my stepbrother was in this sense, this way, would actually lead to you being punished, being teased, instead of just being truly understood. So essentially, I became a person that was not true to himself. I was actively trying to suppress the emotions and the feelings that I experienced in my earlier childhood by adhering to the norms and the values of the people around me. I was trying to fulfill emotional needs without actually knowing what the true source of those needs was. And what do you think happened when those needs were not met by the people around me? I would unconsciously act out the suppressed emotions that I experienced in childhood. And the way that I would do it is through addictions. I started to do more drugs. I started to go out, drink a lot, partying, and many other different actions that I can't really fit into this video. Of course, you can't consider my case as what you would say an extreme case, because even though sometimes I did not get my needs met in an environment that was in an environment that was filled with unconditional love, unconditional acceptance, a good level of communication, etc. I did have those moments in which I did feel understood by certain people around me, with friends and family, certain family members, etc. However, there are extreme cases which are well documented by Alice Miller in her book The Body Never Lies, and by Gabor Mate, for example, in his book In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, or When the Body Says No. And they have provided evidence, for example, on why dictators, for example, or why we have dictators, so the expression of violence through this unconscious behaviors. And she documented the cases of Hitler and of Saddam Hussein, for example. But the other ways in which this suppressed emotion expresses itself is, for example, disease and addiction. And Gabor Mate has shown, for example, that all of the cases that he treated in which people were severely addicted to drugs like cocaine, heroin, some amphetamines, that they had an extreme childhood or childhood of extreme abuse, of sexual abuse, of psychological, emotional abuse, physical abuse, and also with regards to diseases, so how these suppressed emotions express themselves in diseases, Gabor Mate goes on further to show, for example, how this is related to the occurrence of autism, of many psychosomatic diseases or psychological diseases, like, for example, dementia or schizophrenia or autism, as I mentioned before. So what are the solutions to this? Alice Miller says, for example, in order for you to heal yourself, you need to get back to the hurt child you once were. And you need to understand the feelings that are you need to understand the feelings that you have suppressed all of this time. And the way you do it, as she proposes, is, for example, with the help of a conscious witness, somebody that has also uprooted these repressed emotions and has dealt with them. You can also do it two other ways, like, for example, using the medicine ayahuasca, but of course under the correct guidance, so you understand why these feelings are coming up. In the end, in my humble opinion, the idea of finding yourself rests not on creating a new version of yourself, but on reconnecting with your old self and reconnecting with your childhood self, experiencing the full range of emotions that you are, and allowing yourself to experience them without having to feel any guilt or feel as if you have to suppress them, so that, for the sake of others. This was my message for today, guys. It's the first message. If you like the content, please subscribe and look out for more things to come. Peace.